Hello, everybody.
Teacher.
Hi. We are not the technical directors of our organization and therefore do not know the tech side of things very well. We're waiting for someone who does know to help us with that. So while we wait for our PowerPoint, we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Courtney Cooke, and I'm the Director of Theater Education for Columbus Children's Theater, and we are in Columbus, Ohio. We are pretty much down the street. Our offices are, if you know the area at all, they're on Naughton Street in the Discovery District, really close to the convention center. And our theater is by ComFest, if you're aware of the ComFest that's going on this weekend, and the North Market. And at Columbus Children's Theater, my role encompasses directing, creating program for, supervising our classes, camps, in-school programs, which include touring shows and workshops and residency programs, and as well as our accessible programs. And with me today,
I am Jesika Lehner. I am the Outreach and Artist Engagement Coordinator at CCT. My role encompasses outreach, but most specifically outreach to different theater companies, organizations that we can partner with to create interesting and educational programming.
So Columbus Children's Theater, if you don't know us, that's okay. We are a 55-year-old organization that was originally called Columbus Junior Theater, and we are now Columbus Children's Theater, or we often say CCT, because we really like to use the initials of things when we talk about them.
And because people over the age of 8
Yes.
don't like to be called children.
Right, but our mission is to transform the lives of families through the power of the stage. And so when we say families, we really mean everyone in families. Our shows encompass things for theater for the very young, so for children as young as babies. I just got to direct my first theater for the very young this past spring called Nut and Bull. It was a fantastic experience, having kids building towers with robots on stage right before your show starts. It's a really fun experience. And then we do shows that are for specific age groups. We've got 13 going on right now, as Jesika can talk about a little bit, but also we have shows that are for everyone in a family to come and enjoy together. And so we really are for everybody, so CCT it is.
And we actually were not able to be here this morning because we, for 13 the musical, we had a touch tour, we had audio description, and we had ASL interpreting happening for that, and we were there to facilitate that because it is the first. This year we have added all of those things as well as sensory-friendly programming for our summer shows. They had not previously been doing any of those things for the summer because summer comes and goes very quickly. We have 3 groups that rehearse a show for as little as 3 weeks and put it up for 2 weeks. So they had not really been prepared to get things like this on its feet so quickly, but we definitely this year felt that we wanted to offer that for every show, for every person.
And it's also because our summer programs are an educational experience for the company members, for all of the actors, as well as a production at the end of it. It's also a really fantastic learning opportunity for everybody who walks through our doors to be able to say, well, thank you, that that they have been trained in how to do a sensory-friendly performance, and they may only be 10 years old. Or some of the Cinderella kids are going to be 8, right?
And
9?
4th grade.
8 or 9?
Yeah.
So we also felt like that was important. And our work in accessibility this year is being supported by PNC Arts Alive. And so through their support, we've been able to offer sensory-friendly audio description, touch tour, and ASL interpretation for scheduled for every single show in our season this year and for most shows last season.
We did not start accessibility at CCT.
No.
I've been there
You've been
for
there 2 years now.
about 2 years. I came in as an assistant and became full-time. They already had some sensory-friendly programming in place. They had gone to the Maryland
Imagination
Imagination
Stage in
Stage,
Bethesda, Maryland.
and had extensive training for that, and they passed along their knowledge to us. After that, Courtney and I last year in August attended the LEAD Festival, or the LEAD Conference, and we learned how to have a touch tour and how to facilitate audio description and ASL interpreting. We had done ASL interpreting at CCT, but it was on a request basis. We didn't want it to be on a request basis. We wanted to offer it for one or two of each show, and then if anyone else wanted it, they could call and request it as well. We just wanted it to be a lot easier for anyone to be able to see that.
Yeah. Oh, yay, thank you.
We didn't do it.
We didn't do it. We did it. Maybe.
Let's not count the chickens before they hatch.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, yay, cool, thank you.
So you're on the slide.
Yeah, it's okay if we skip through that. It's not really very exciting.
Cool.
It's, so you didn't miss much.
So we got to the history of
Oh,
our.
this is, this is perfect.
Yeah,
I think those are good.
Thank
Just let me
you.
know.
Perfect.
Amazing.
So, so Jessica talked a little bit about what we're currently offering, and I wanted to make time to talk about the resources, which you were speaking a little bit about the LEAD conference, and that we really could not do this work if we didn't have opportunities like this, and like LEAD, and networking, and organizations like BSA to go to and say, we don't know what to do, can you help us please, or to learn more. When we went to the LEAD conference last year, the last thing we saw before we got on the bus to go to the plane was a session talking about, from Steppenwolf, talking in theater in Chicago, about their touch tours, because they've done them for years and years and years. And we were tasked with doing touch tours at CCT and didn't even know what it was. And so we sat there with our notebooks open and just writing down every word he said, and then he said, I'll email all this to you. And I'm like, okay, thank you, we appreciate it. And so really, without other organizations sharing what they do, and individuals, and we'll talk about the contractors that we work with for all of the services that we do, and without those people, we wouldn't be able to make this.
And just overall, Erin Hoppy with BSA Ohio has been our main resource to get specific information on the separate resources we use.
Right, and our audio describer she brought a lot of people in for the touch tour and the audio description, people who are blind or have low vision, that she already knew in her network, and then we started getting feedback from people who were really comfortable already giving Jane their feedback, and so then they were sharing with us about what we were doing well, what we could do better, and so that's, listening to our audience members is something that we also make sure that we are always thinking about too.
And this photo is of this was our very first touch tour.
The very first one, I wrote a lesson plan that was 3 pages long for a 30-minute touch tour. Very unnecessary, but I overplanned and I felt better about myself.
And this, the younger woman that you see on the screen is actually one of our students. And she was so excited for us to offer this. I think she was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
This is amazing. She's the sassiest sassy pants that I know as well. And so she definitely gave us very honest, frank, and open feedback. But that was my most exciting part of that touch tour.
Yeah, that was, and that was for Dracula, which was, it was Dracula. And so it was pretty cool. We got to let everybody get some of the fake blood on their finger and then taste it if they wanted to, because it was pancake syrup. And so that was fun. That's not stuff that we normally get to share with audiences either. So it's also, doing touch tours is also becoming a way for us to think about how we are making our shows contextual for all of our audience members, and that sometimes that's a really cool thing to be able to do. I think we're ready for the next one. Okay, so sensory-friendly performances is what CCT has been doing for the longest amount of time. I think we're in our 8th season of doing sensory-friendly, and we work with the Autism Society of Central Ohio to get tickets to families, to get the word out. I met with them late last season just to do a check-in about how we're doing, some new things that we can bring in, and we also continually, try to make sure that we are doing our own professional development so that these things are staying fresh. And we had an actor who was in one of our shows and is on the autism spectrum, and came to the Sensory Friendly of Dracula, had the best day of his life, like living his best day, and loved it, was in a show, and for the next show said, okay, Courtney, here are my notes about the Sensory Friendly before we do the training. And I was like, okay, this is fantastic, thank you. And so we also now start having our own performers who are also part of that process. And doing these trainings with especially our students, adults are great, but I really, doing the trainings with our students and our children, our young adult actors, or even the kids, is always just an amazing experience, because the kids in that room are always just excited that we are working to do what we can to make their show more accessible to more people, and they want the information, they want to learn, they want to share, oh, I've done this before, here's what worked, or I did this and I put my hand out next to someone and they took it, so please remember, don't do that, and they like to, so sharing those stories and doing that training has become a process that we all work on together, and it's one of my favorite days in a show. And so for the audience for our sensory friendly performances, do you want to take that away? Or here, you want to talk about you do that, I'll do this.
Okay. Okay.
Do you want to talk about the audience?
Yes, so Courtney typically is the one that facilitates these by going out with a handout, like she's going to hand out to all of you, that has photos of things that the audience should be aware of, that anyone that has on the spectrum with any sort of sensory limitation that might jar them. So with Pete the Cat, which is the one we're passing out, with Pete the Cat, she gave them a little heads up that the sofa would be moving and that it was fine. The sofa would go up, people would go under it, and that was okay. Anytime there are loud noises, she would let them know what was going to happen and just prepare them for that. Changes to lighting, if it was going to get dark very quickly, if it goes to a blackout, that's something that we will tell the audience that will happen, or actions that are very fast and unexpected. That's the one that we definitely want them to be aware of, our unexpected actions. And so Courtney will always give everyone a heads up to what is going to happen. I'm gonna go to the next slide now as well, because
and what I didn't pass out, so you have our social story for Pete, but what I didn't pass out is what Jessica is just talking about. We're gonna share with you what we give out to our actors and to our technical people, and this is about the actual, what are we looking for, what adaptations do we make, what do we not make. So
the first thing that we always tell the actors is don't change your performance at all, as far as your energy and the way you deliver a line. We may tell them to bring down a volume on something that is, again, an unexpected yell. A couple big things that we always talk about are sirens. So if you're going to get loud, you want to slowly get loud. And if you have a very high pitch, you want to bring the pitch down just a little bit, but you're still going to go up in pitch, but you're not going to hit the shrill, ear-splitting ouch. The kids really do respond to this. Our actors respond to this really well. And we do have to go through it a couple times with them because they will undo.
yes.
So we try to make sure that it is at the same energy level. That is the biggest point of contention that we get to with them. And then also their actions. It's almost exactly the same thing as the sounds. You're winding into things. If there's an unexpected action that is going to take place, like somebody's going to get punched, you just pull it back a little bit longer so they can see that you're going to punch. If there is a weapon involved, there was a knife in Tuck
There was a
Everlasting.
knife and tuck. There were lots of swords in Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Lots of them.
So it's just a sheer act of making it seen for a moment before it's driven. So those are some of the adaptations we make. Courtney tasked me with doing one of, I have a very shrill high, would never do that at a sensory friendly performance. It would be more of a, so we are going to try that now. I want everyone to give a squealy shriek.
Yeah.
Same intensity behind it, not as shrill, and swoop into it. Exactly. We did it!
My
Yeah.
voice is too deep.
And so another thing that we always work on is scooping up into volume. And so, as Jesika said, that's also something that we want to make sure that the actors understand that it's not about changing the volume necessarily, it's about changing how quickly we get to that volume. And so, do you want to, I'm not a vocalist, and so at this point is when I always ask one of the kids who's always singing, like, does anybody want to do this? Can someone show a scoop up? Jesika, do you want to do an example? So this is not a pitch, this is about volume.
Still a pitch change, but
Yeah.
it's definitely just a scoop. It's the same as the action, the voice and the action.
So then the action, we do need some volunteers for this one. So if one or two people who would be willing to stand up and come over here, and if not, Jesika and I can do it, that's okay. But if anybody would like to volunteer, now's your chance.
Go ahead.
All right, we'll go. All right.
I'll come.
No, it's
Okay.
the two of you.
Anyone
Yep.
else?
Okay.
Come on up. Okay. So
Yeah.
let's get on center stage here. So right in front of the projector. Very wonderful. Perfect for us. Okay. So let's pretend this is a scene in 13, which is a show that we're doing right now. And there's a scene where one of the kids punches another kid in the stomach. So when they do that, when you're doing stage combat, you're always winding up a little bit because you have to let your partner know what's going to happen. That's how people stay safe when you're doing stage combat. Is everybody's always like, yeah, now it's time. Okay. So there's a little bit of that, but we always try to exaggerate it a little bit more for sensory friendly because for any audience, seeing a 13-year-old get punched in the stomach can be a little jarring, and we want to make sure to take away that element of surprise as much as we can. That might be jarring for somebody. So you guys are both theater people, right? Have you been trained in stage combat?
Long ago.
Should have been, haven't been.
Oh, me either. This is not a stage combat class. Okay, so we are going to stand so far apart that there's no way that you could hurt each other. Perfect. Okay. So, can you remind me of your name?
I'm Gwen.
Gwen is going to be, are you okay doing the punching?
Oh,
Are you
yes.
okay?
I don't even know Mackenzie, so I would punch anyone.
All right, I had that kind of day the other day, I get you. So Gwen is going to be Brett, who is going to punch Evan, played by Mackenzie. Okay. So, why don't we're gonna just do
a wind-up
Yeah,
punch?
but no, just do a regular, like a sucker punch. Let me get out of the way.
Yeah, I
Right,
don't want to hurt you.
So,
I'm very
this is-
mighty.
This is no wind up. This is your
Oh, this is no
13-year-old kid punching somebody in front of a Dairy Queen.
Okay, so do you want me to react?
Yes,
Sure.
go for it. Beautiful. Yeah, let's give it Okay,
Yeah,
We're going to do an encore with a wind up.
yeah. So then what? And actually, when we did the sensory friendly training with the 13 cast, it was early in the rehearsal, so I hadn't seen a run through yet, and I knew that this was coming because I'd read the script, but I didn't know exactly what it would look like. One of the first questions I got was, "What about my punch?" And I was like, "Don't worry, Nicholas, we will get there." So the next thing that we're gonna do it again, but with the wind up. So it is just like you this back, we're gonna just make sure to exaggerate a little bit more and give it a little bit more time there before you land the punch. And I think that was a great effect there.
Oh, that was so
Thank you very much. You're both fabulous.
And that's also an example of something that Courtney would give in the pre-speech with a sensory-friendly audience. She will tell them there will be fighting. It is not real. No one gets hurt. And you'll know when it's coming, is typically you'll know when it's coming.
Yes. And I didn't bring my props. I have glow sticks. I should have brought my props, my glow sticks. But so another thing that we'll do is we will glow stick things that are larger than life, or that if we take them out of the show, it really changes the whole show, because the point is that it's the same show, which is minor adaptations, that might make it a more welcoming and inclusive environment. So, for example, Jack and Phil Slayers of Giants Incorporated, as the title mentions, there's a giant. And this is not it, this is from Mary Poppins. But I will get to why I put that photo up there. But in Jack and Phil, we had this giant puppet head that was probably the size of the screen, the whole screen, and then also a big arm with a hand that would come out at one point and grab one of the characters. And so when it's the whole story about a giant, so we can't take this giant puppet head out. So we made that part of the social story, but we also told the audience in our curtain speech that when the giant's about to come out, we will stand, our stage is a thrust stage, which means there's audience on 3 sides of it. And so we have 2 staircases on both sides of the stage. So that's where we stand. We'll stand there so that everyone can see us, and we'll both, on both sides, and we'll both be holding, we were doing it.
It was us.
And we would both hold the glow sticks a moment or 2 before the giant would come out. The giant would come out, we put the glow sticks down. So that anyone who just needed a moment to know that the giant was coming and to make themselves more comfortable, or just to have the preparation, would have that opportunity. Now, and everybody always asks, what are you going to glow stick in this show? I'm like, I don't know, maybe nothing, but maybe I will. So it's always the actor's always really interested to see what gets glow sticked. But this picture was from Mary Poppins, and the reason I included this was because this was the first time that I did a sensory-friendly training with an entire student cast. And there were, 30 kids in that cast?
So many kids.
And they were from the ages of 10 to, I think the oldest was probably like
16 or 17.
Sarah too, right? So, like 16, 17. And some of them have done these shows and some had not. But as you can see in this picture, there were a lot of them on the stage, and they were always doing this and this, and really close to the audience, because our chairs are very close to our stage, and there's a lot of kids, so they filled the space. And we also talk about inviting gestures, and that this might be confusing. It might be an indication to that you want someone to take your hand, or that you're inviting someone up on the stage, and that's not always safe, because with 30 kids running around during supercalifragilistic, that would be a little dangerous. So we don't normally make adjustments to choreography, but we decided to have them do this instead and make this hand motion, because if you get a high five, that's okay. It's a lot less distracting than maybe getting a hand hold, and then you have to try to get away from the hand hold and get out of that. So we made that adjustment, and some of them started doing that during a regular show. It's like, no. You can go back and do this during a typical performance, but during a sensory friendly, we do this one.
Okay. Touch tours.
So, does anybody here have experience with touch tours? Either facilitating one or attending one? Oh, great, okay. As I said, I didn't either, and then I got this job and was said, hey, we have this money and you have to do touch tours. I was like, fantastic. I'm gonna learn about that. So this is really just a tactile exploration of a show. And so I think a strict definition of who the audience is people who are blind or have low vision. However, we have expanded, and that's not necessarily in every organization, but certainly Steppenwolf, which is where we got a lot of our information, that's their target audience for touch tours. And so we've expanded on that. They're open to anyone who's attending the show, but we specifically do them before our audio description and ASL shows and before our sensory-friendly shows. And so that it can help provide context for whomever might need it. And also, it's just very cool. For Peter Pan, we did Peter Pan at the Southern Theater, which is a big, giant, beautiful, old theater with 1926. No, that's not right.
You know, it was 1890. I mean, it's more than 100 years old.
Yeah, very
well
cool.
over 100 years.
And so we got to go backstage and go on the stage, and I was telling everyone I know, I was like, y'all need to come to do this. Come, when else do you get to go backstage and then touch all these big sets? And so it's a really neat experience. And during the touch tour, the way that we do them is our audio describer, who I put her name on the next page, but I can say it now. Her name is Jane Ehrenfeld, and we were connected to her through VSA Ohio. She's fantastic if you're in Columbus and you need an audio describer. I highly recommend her, or the surrounding areas, I suppose. And so we work together to facilitate this. So we always start in the lobby. Jane will narrate the lobby space of where everything is, the bathrooms, where the box office is, what it looks like, where the doors are, and I will welcome everyone into the theater and introduce the show, and then we'll walk into the theater space. Depending on where we are, if we're at our space, we're at the Lincoln Theater or the Southern, that always looks a little bit different. But then typically we'll sit down and talk to some of the production team and hear just a little bit about the show. This is not to give things away, so it's really, I have to remind the kids especially, like, stop, don't talk about your motivations. They'll get that in the show, okay? Just tell them what you look like. And so, and then a few of the actors will come out, specifically the ones who have a lot of speaking lines is who we try to get to come out for those. And you did one when you were in Tuck Everlasting. Do you want to talk about, as from the actor's perspective, what that was?
Absolutely. As some of you may know, actors like to talk, especially about what we're doing. So it's definitely a challenge for an actor to come out and just say, hi, this is my name, this is the role I play, what else would you like to know? It's kind of how I approach it. And then I let Jane take the lead, is what I did. So she talked about what my hair was. I had a wig on, it was a long red wig. And she talked about that it was a long curly red wig and that I had on a long sleeve, bell sleeve, very ornate dress. The people that we had in the audience that day were really interested in the texture of that dress, and it had lots of ruffles. So I let them touch the dress, and there was lots of lace on it. So they were my dress was definitely the most ornate of all of the costumes. So they had a chance to really get an understanding of what I was wearing, which I thought was just fantastic. And yeah, so I didn't use a different voice, a different accent, anything like that in that show. So the voice that I was giving them in the touch tour was exactly what they heard, which was not much because I had no voice.
Yeah. But for Dracula, the actor who played Dracula,
he was, obviously the show takes place in Transylvania, so he had an accent. And Jane had brought in friends.
I'm not sure if they knew Jane or how they got there,
but there was a woman that was literally from Transylvania. So she was like, I want to hear this accent because I want to know if it's right.
And he was like, oh, okay.
So by the end of the show, she said, yeah, it was all right. He also had very pointy nails, and that was really interesting to me because they looked like real nails. And the people that were in the audience wanted to know what they felt like if he had such long pointy nails, and they were foam.
Yeah. So he went around and.
So there's something for everyone to
like
learn,
he was being given lots of manicures.
I think for Dracula, were there any sensory-friendly friends that came?
No, because that was our first touch tour, and at that time we were very much like, okay, this is for a particular audience. We are going to market this for people who are blind or have low vision, and we were very much tunneled in that way. And then we realized
that would have been very beneficial.
Yeah,
For some
especially for anyone who just with, having the sensory input of actually touching something can help put it into context when they see it. So, we're now doing 2 for each show. But we put this on here because whatever organization you're in, manage your expectations about how many people you will have at a touch tour, especially when you first start doing it, or an audio description show. Because we had 5 people for Dracula, we had 1 or 2 for Tuck,
2 for Tuck.
and 20 for Pete the Cat. And so it really varies, and anyone who comes in and makes use of a touch tour, that's an exciting thing and a success. So
And we were very excited and thought, these are gonna be packed.
we just didn't manage our expectations.
We did not manage our
so passing that on to you.
Yes.
So then audio description, is anyone familiar with audio description here? We have the cart reader here too. Jane's the one who does our audio description, and so she will sit up in the booth, which is where our stage manager sits and calls the show and does all the cues for the lights and the sound. And she'll sit there and watch the action. We give her the script months in advance. She comes to rehearsal. She's part of the production team. Everybody knows Jane at CCP. Thank you. And then she'll narrate the main or really important action on stage that's happening in between dialogue during the show. It's all live at CCT, and then anyone who wants to use audio description will receive, it looks like a little radio, will receive that in headphones or can use their own, and then can listen with one ear while they listen with the other ear for what's happening on stage. And she also will read out what's in the program during in between when the house opens and when the show starts. And we have until, is it 4:40?
Something like that.
And what Jessica's passing out now is what we give to our actors and tech people about what to expect for our audio description ASL touch tours. And I didn't change this at all, so you'll see in here where it says like Courtney will tell you to and Jane will tell you to. It is exactly what we give out to our production teams. Because if we hadn't received all the materials from Steppenwolf that we received, we would have been lost. So if you can make use of it, I hope that you will. Okay, and then ASL Interpretation, American Sign Language. Today we had 2 interpreters who came and interpreted the show. They also get the script months in advance and come to rehearsals. Sometimes we film it if the rehearsal schedule doesn't work with their schedule and make that available for them. And we are scheduling this, but it is also, there's a link on our website that will, I think it probably emails us, the education office, if you'd like to request a different show be interpreted. And we are really thankful that both Jane and Artistic Sign Language Services, who we work with for the ASL interpretation, they are always really open to, looking at the schedule, seeing what might work, seeing if they can find someone to do it, so that we can accommodate whether it's changing a show or just adding another one. And primarily anyone who requests ASL is someone who is deaf or hard of hearing and uses American Sign Language, so it's not necessarily for everyone who might be deaf or hard of hearing, but that is, it's also really, I think ASL is very gorgeous, so I enjoy watching it myself too. And brushing up on my high school ASL, which I need to go back to.
And the Artistic Sign Language Services, they are amazing.
Yeah.
Just phenomenal.
And then this photo is from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And this was the first show that I did. This was just sensory friendly. It actually was, and we had ASL. But the first show that I was facilitating the accessible programming on my own, and was very much like this the whole time. But of course it happened, and it was great. And okay, so we don't have that we did, maybe we can do this as a whole group, but when we were asked to present this conference, we were like, ooh, yay, this is exciting because this is, people from maybe potentially really different fields or who are in similar fields or maybe in a museum setting where there's some crossover, but not necessarily when going to other theaters like we often do and collaborating with other theater artists. So we wanted to ask, how do you think this can apply to your work? And if you see opportunities for growth for what we're doing, what we're not doing, what we could be doing better, or any kind of collaboration. So if anyone wants, I have business cards up here, like collaboration. But if anyone has anything that or you can just ask us questions, because it's also that part of the time.
I guess I have a question. So you do programs where kids can come in and learn theater themselves and put on shows, right? Do you have any programs for including children with disabilities in that aspect?
Yeah, so our teaching artists are trained to work with children with a variety of different needs and to meet kids where they're at when they come into our space. And we have had requests for paraprofessionals to attend class with students, absolutely. We've had requests we have a summer camper who has an IEP and receives services over the summer, and in order to do that, coming to summer camp, we have a whole checklist of things that the teaching artist gives their curriculum to the service provider. They create this checklist, and then the teaching artist completes it during the week with the student, and we turn that in. We have not had requests for anything really further than that, and that is an area where we hope to grow. And I actually was speaking with somebody from Ocali yesterday. Was that only yesterday? Oh, geez. And that is one thing that I said, I feel like this is the next step for us. That and creating and including access through different languages. I think that is a place where I see room for us to grow. Anything else? Thoughts? Questions? Yeah.
We work, myself and hello. She works with, we work with emotionally disturbed kids, elementary grade levels. And there's a lot of abuse, a lot of, just horrible lives that they live. And I think just handing them the pictures of things that might be happening when we have guests that come in and stuff like that would be very beneficial.
Warnings.
Absolutely, yeah.
We have a lot of different people comes in with different things that they want to have the kids experience and stuff like that, and these kids are petrified of them.
Terrified,
Yeah.
right.
And I
They
think
don't know.
just
the
having a
slightest
visual
movement.
script or whatever would be very beneficial for our kids.
Absolutely. Well, and that's one thing too that I tell our students, we do all of this preparation. We have a video online of what it looks like when you come to our theater. We do the social stories on paper. I speak during the curtain speech. We do the touch tours. We do all of these things so that we can hopefully forecast for anyone who might need whatever forecast, but we can't, you can't always adapt to meet everyone's needs, and you can't anticipate everyone's needs. But that by providing as many options as possible and we're also, honest in that we're not necessarily meeting everyone's needs, and we, just like our student who came to see Dracula and then was in pageant was like, nope, let me tell you, we're gonna need to take that down. You gotta write that on you better mention this in your speech. And I was like, thank you very much. I appreciate that because I wouldn't have thought about it. So I think that's a fantastic idea.
I'm a teacher in town, and I think it would be great to do the touch tour type things with some of our lower functioning classrooms when you don't go out into schools and things like that.
Oh,
That's what,
that's
as you were all
Yeah.
talking, I'm thinking of the touring company doing
Yeah.
a school where they do take out a touch tour, and they also have the social script ready to start.
That would be so
That would
cool.
See,
You
you give us outside
We're
ideas.
sitting here, like,
I'm taking notes.
Yes. Well, and the fabulous thing that I like about working at CCT, well, I like a lot of it. I mean, I get to do theater education, and so it's pretty cool. But one of the things I love about it as an organization organization is that we're small, so we're really flexible. And so when we get an idea like that, and we're like, oh my gosh, of course we should do that.
Right.
And then we can start to put it into motion. And of course, like any other small nonprofit, sometimes things take a while or you have to find funding. But we have the flexibility to say to our executive director, we have a great idea, it's supported by someone else, and let's do it. And she'll say, okay. We don't agree.
And then I wondered, are you trying to key into any particular academic standards in Ohio or
All of
here?
them.
And how do you do that? How do you generate your content to match standards?
Well, in our classes, all of our teachers use, we've been using the National Core Arts Learning Standards because the Ohio Drama Standards are under revision, and I'm on the committee for that, so I have the draft, and I'm very excited about them, but it's only a draft, so we're not using that at the moment. And then we also use Ohio's other academic learning standards with our classes, and when we create our study guides. If you've ever used one of our study guides, or if you haven't and you end up taking a look, I'll be frank, I don't think they're not where I want them to be.
They're
slowly
getting
They're getting better. So
Okay.
if anyone ever has thoughts, I'm open. And so I think looking at different differentiation in our classrooms and in all of our instruction is another next step in how to use those.
I work at a science center in Toledo, so I can see how a lot of this will apply to our live demonstrations that we do both in and out of the building. But there are also a lot of things that I'm not sure how this would apply. So I'm wondering, how did you reach out to the audiences you wanted to serve to kind of find out what they're interested in having in terms of services?
We are still working to expand our network and our contacts. A lot of it is that we do surveys after the shows, so everyone who goes to a sensory-friendly show or an audio-described show will receive a survey about what they experienced. But we've also, I don't even think it's been applied for yet, but we've been asked to be part of a potential study and would allow us to survey people about how welcoming our facilities and our accessible programming, how all of that is, how welcoming it is. And so hopefully the funding comes through. If not, we're still intending to do that on our own. But it's really, I found that it's been a lot of grassroots. It's following up with the families that always come to Sensory Friendly and asking them, questions about their experience. And it's asking our students who came to the touch tour, like, give us the real deal on this. Please don't hold back. You're not going to hurt my feelings. And then reaching out to other organizations that do similar work or work that we're interested in.
The phone calls that we've been making recently are to the Ohio School for the Blind and the Ohio School for the Deaf, just so we reiterate to them that we're doing this. Do you have anyone that wants to come? And you may need to comp them in some things to get them interested and to let them know that it's not a joke, it's not a fluke, this is real.
Yeah.
And I think that that's maybe, I don't think they think it's a joke or that it's not real, but we actually had a gentleman come up to us who was blind at
The BSA conference this past fall.
and we told him about audio description and he had never heard of it before, ever. So we're trying to educate the community on what the offerings are and what they are.
So I was introduced to it as a new age. My sister's blind, and my mom thought it was funny to make me go to the movies and tell my sister what was going on in the movies.
So you're an audio describer then?
Yeah, not good at it though. I might be. I don't know. I'm kind of.
Probably better than you think.
I don't know. My sister deals with it.
I wouldn't be good with that because it's like, would you shut up in the movie, please?
Yeah. Right. So, do your students get the opportunity to talk to other young people and show how they're learning about accessibility has maybe bettered them? Do they get those kind of opportunities or?
Well, we had a group from the Ohio State School for the Blind in today for a touch tour. They had a camp, and so a lot of our actors got to speak at that point. And then we had a group from Ohio School for the Deaf who
Last
came
week.
to the 13 rehearsal for 13, and as Jessica has said, they all love to talk about what they do and what they're learning to do and how
It doesn't change from the age of 12 to 44. I think actors like to chat.
So, and I think our time is up. Is
Go
you have
ahead.
a quick question?
I was just gonna ask, a lot of the shows that you're doing are typical plays. Do you do anything specifically for STEM? Science or anything?
Well, we have one of our touring shows last year was specifically chosen because of it had a science component. Were you gonna?
I was just pointing you from this electricity, and then this year it's the
Apollo to the moon, but that's
Oh.
you know the history and the space travel. So we
Right. What I'm interested in and how to do this, so.
yeah. I found that it's a lot harder than I thought it would be to find good scripts that make connections, academic connections that I wanted. It's not impossible, but it is a little more challenging than I thought. But I'm happy to share any resources that I do have. And also we have there's a lot of people who go into choosing a season, and so our input sometimes is, you know, sixth down the line,
and
and we're like that one and not that one, and yeah, that one.
unfortunately, being a nonprofit, a lot of what we have to choose has to be local. So
Sometimes, yeah.
most,
A lot of times.
a lot of times, yes.
I just wanna say one thing really fast, nonprofit to nonprofit. Thank you guys for taking the time to train all your actors and your staff. I think that is a piece that, we can get really excited about, like all the stuff we can roll out and all the stuff we can do, but if we're not all trained, then you don't have it. I know on my perspective, that's a piece of trying to move the whole museum forward.
hard,
Like we need to train everyone, and so I think those are the pieces I'm gonna take away the best. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you guys. Well, if anyone wants a business card, our information is up here too. Like I said, we like ideas, we like collaboration. Thank you all so much for coming.